For 10 years, the sky was on fire. The cosmos was locked in a brutal war of succession. The younger Olympians fought with raw energy, but the elder Titans held the high ground. They were entrenched, their dominance carved into the very mountains of the earth. This clash of immortals left the physical world scarred and bleeding. The stalemate tore the planet apart, turning landscapes into rivers of ash and fire. Zeus watched the front lines disintegrate into a cycle of meaningless slaughter. To win, he would have to look past the carnage of the heavens and find an advantage his father never anticipated. Winning a symmetrical war requires a specific type of asymmetrical leverage. Zeus abandoned the stalemate on the surface to search for the assets buried in the dark. Tartarus sits far beneath the reach of the sun, a lightless subterranean machine. It functions as the universe's original dungeon, a void of absolute physical confinement. Long before the current war, the sky god Uranus and the titan Cronus committed a quiet atrocity. They looked at their own offspring, found them physically hideous, and shoved them down into this abyss. Those forgotten prisoners were the Cyclopes, beings of unmatched metallurgical craftsmanship, and the Hekatonkheires, giants possessing terrifying, unrefined physical power. The Titans had looked at the ultimate engines of mass destruction and buried them alive out of superficial disgust. Zeus descended into the dark to retrieve the weapons his father had spent an eternity trying to forget. Zeus, alongside his brothers Poseidon and Hades, slipped away from the front lines and began the long descent into absolute darkness. To understand how deep they traveled, the ancient Greeks used the metric of a falling iron anvil. Dropped from the surface of the earth, it would fall for 9 full days and nights before striking the floor of Tartarus. At the bottom, the brothers found a fortress reinforced by the roots of the continents and sealed shut behind massive walls of solid bronze. And wrapping around those gates was Kampe, a serpentine terror she uncoiled in the pitch black, placed there to ensure nothing left the abyss. The beast and the bronze walls were the physical manifestation of the Titans' paranoia, their need to suppress anything that challenged their authority. The brothers struck in unison. Hades used the shadows to blind her, Poseidon weaponized the subterranean waters to trap her, and Zeus delivered the fatal, crushing blow. With the warden dead, Zeus stepped forward and shattered the adamantine chains. He was actively undoing generations of his family's cruelty. In immediate gratitude, the freed Cyclopes turned back to their subterranean fires. They began hammering out the instruments of their liberator's victory. They crafted the Trident for Poseidon, the Helm of Darkness for Hades, and finally, the master weapon, the Thunderbolt. As the brothers grasped these tools in the darkness, the balance of cosmic power shifted. They possessed the specialized equipment of sovereign gods. The Olympians breached the surface as a coordinated military force, flanked by the very giants their enemies had spent centuries suppressing. The Hekatonkheires moved to the front lines, ripping up entire mountains and hurling 300 boulders into the sky in a synchronized wave. Through the barrage of flying stone, Zeus leveled his new weapon. The Thunderbolt severed the enemy lines, delivering a blast of pure energy that the Titans could not withstand. The vision of the Olympians, the masterful craft of the Cyclopes, and the raw, unyielding force of the hundred-handed giants worked together to finally crush the Titan stronghold. With the war won, Zeus stood over his defeated enemies and passed his final judgment. He dragged the Titans down into the earth and sealed them inside the lightless void of Tartarus, where they had forced their own kin to suffer. To guard the newly sealed bronze gates, Zeus stationed the Hekatonkheires. The hierarchy of the cosmos had completely inverted. The ancient prisoners who were locked away for being too monstrous had just become the permanent wardens over their former captors. In the moral architecture of Greek mythology, the universe keeps a strict accounting of cruelty. The very sins you try to bury in the dark will eventually become the exact instruments of your destruction. For a decade, the mythological landscape of ancient Greece has been fractured by a war of absolute attrition. Across the plains of Thessaly, 2 heavily fortified encampments stare each other down across an impassable valley: the insurgent Olympian gods on Mount Olympus and the ruling Titans on Mount Othrys. This is a complete tactical deadlock. The old generation of deities and the new generation are locked in a siege where neither side can gain a millimeter of ground, nor dislodge the other from their mountain fortress. The sheer thermal and kinetic output of this conflict is tearing at the fabric of reality. The continuous exchange of divine artillery burns forests to ash, boils the oceans, and pushes the universe towards its original state of formless, primordial chaos. The problem with fighting immortals is that you cannot win a conventional war of attrition. The Titans do not age, they do not fatigue, and they cannot be starved out. Zeus recognizes that matching force with force will only result in mutual destruction. To break the siege, he has to completely abandon standard infantry tactics and develop an asymmetrical strategy. He descends into Tartarus, the lightless subterranean prison where the previous regime locked away their political enemies. Zeus is there to recruit the exiles. This diagram illustrates the military assets forged for the Olympians by the freed Cyclopes. Instead of generic armaments, these master craftsmen manufacture 3 specialized tools of war: the thunderbolt for concentrated offense, the trident for environmental manipulation, and the Helm of Darkness for absolute stealth. Zeus also emancipates the Hekatonkheires, the hundred-handers. These are 3 beings, each possessing 50 heads and 100 arms. They offer 0 tactical finesse, but they provide an infinite reserve of kinetic energy. Power is no longer concentrated in a single solitary king. Zeus is distributing distinct operational capabilities among a coordinated command structure. The 10th year of the siege opens on the scorched terrain of Thessaly, setting the stage for the decisive confrontation. Hades initiates the assault. Wearing the newly forged Helm of Darkness, he completely erases his visual and auditory signature from the battlefield. Moving invisibly through the Titan encampment, Hades sabotages their supply chains and strips away their heavy weapons. The Titan vanguard is left entirely blind to the impending strike, sowing immediate panic through their ranks. Poseidon then enters the fray. He bypasses standard infantry combat entirely and drives his trident into the bedrock. The trident functions as a localized seismic trigger, splintering the continental crust and sending massive shockwaves rippling across the valley floor. Deep fissures tear open beneath the Titan infantry. Entire battalions are swallowed into the earth before they can draw a weapon, instantly neutralizing their numerical advantage on the ground. Without their armaments and with their geographic stronghold fractured into impassable ravines, the Titans are pinned in place. High above the broken battlefield, Zeus positions his final asset along the highest mountain ridges. The 3 Hekatonkheires step to the edge of the precipice, their 300 arms moving with synchronized, terrifying precision. This chart maps the sheer volume of their artillery output. 3 beings throwing 100 boulders simultaneously produces a launch rate of 300 projectiles per volley. This sustained physical barrage creates an avalanche of solid rock, physically crushing the Titan vanguard. With the enemy immobilized, Zeus descends. He executes the final blow by raining continuous, blinding strikes from his thunderbolt, a display of absolute, concentrated power that chars the battlefield. The Olympians broke the 10-year deadlock through a systematic application of stealth, environmental destabilization, and mathematically overwhelming artillery. The dust eventually settles over a cratered, burning landscape that barely resembles the world of a decade prior. The victors now face the logistical nightmare of processing immortal prisoners of war. Zeus sentences the defeated Titans to Tartarus, sealing them in the exact same lightless void they once used to hold their own political enemies. In a calculated maneuver, Zeus stations the Hekatonkheires at the bronze gates of the Abyss. The Titans' former victims are now their permanent wardens. The Titan field commander, Atlas, receives a unique structural sentence. He is condemned to the western edge of the world, forced to manually bear the crushing weight of the sky to keep it separated from the earth. With the old regime buried, the 3 brothers cast lots to divide the physical universe. Zeus claims the sky, Poseidon takes the sea, and Hades is granted dominion over the underworld. The sprawling, chaotic cosmos is now strictly partitioned into rigid jurisdictions, all managed by a single, heavily armed family syndicate. The Titanomachy serves as a ruthless, pragmatic study of political transition, detailing how power is seized and institutionalized through violence. It reveals an underlying assumption in ancient Greek philosophy. The predictable turning of the seasons, the boundaries of the oceans, and the reliability of gravity are not the natural state of things. The universe inherently trends towards chaos. Our structure was purchased exclusively through planetary war and the total subjugation of the forces that came before. To the ancient mind, civilization is not a given. It is an engineered state of being, maintained every single day by the constant, unyielding threat of absolute force.